Hello, and today we are going to review volume and see how volume and layering can work together. Before we do that, let's go ahead and discuss volume. Let's discuss volume. What is volume? Well, volume is the number of cubes that make up a rectangular prism or a shape. So if I show you this right rectangular prism, what is the volume of this prism? The volume is 2 cubic units. 1, 2, because it's made of 2 cubes. If I add another cube to this prism, what's the volume now? The volume of this prism is 3 cubic units. What do we use volume for? Why is it important? Well, volume is used to measure how much we fill our pool with water, how much gas we put in our car, the detergent we use to clean our clothes, how much water you drink. Don't forget, a right rectangular prism is a prism like a cube, but all the sides of the prism are rectangles. A cubic unit is a three-dimensional square. We say volume in cubic units if we don't know its measurement. So let's say I knew that one of the measurements of this were in inches. I would then say cubic inches. If it was yards, I'd say cubic yards or yards cubed. But on this one, I don't know the measurement of these cubes, so I'm going to say cubic units. Okay, so let's look at this grid here. And I'm going to color in these 4 squares so that I have an area of 4 square units. Okay, so we shade and have an area of 4 square units. I'm going to write that right here. Area equals 4 square units. This is going to act as the foundation of my structure. So if I were to put a building on this, notice how the building fits on that foundation, that area of 4 square units. So let's imagine that these 1, 2, 3, 4 cubes are the ground floor of a building. Well, what if I decided to put a second floor on that building? Did I change the ground floor? No, that ground floor has 4 cubes still. So I added another layer, so how many cubes do I have total? I have 4 on that ground floor. I added another layer of the same amount of cubes, which was 4 cubes, so now I have a volume of 8 cubes. Well, what if I add another layer? So now I have a 3-story structure. Did I change the volume? You betcha. Did I change the ground floor? No. What's the volume of my new prism? Well, my new prism has another 4, 4, and 4, so that's 12 cubic units. Notice the whole time my ground layer, my first floor, did not change. If you notice, we have a right rectangular prism here. We're going to build this right rectangular prism. I want to pay attention to some of the layers in this prism. So we're going to put our first layer. I'm looking and I see the side of one of the layers is 4. So I'm going to put those 4 right here. I'm going to add another layer to that. That other layer right here. Just like how we were building those stories on a building, this time we're adding layers, but adding them vertically, kind of like bread slices. Let's go ahead and create this prism by adding 3 more layers. So here they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I created 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers. Well, how many cubes were in each layer? How many cubes did we add each time? Each time I have 4 cubes that I added in each layer. Let's go ahead and show these layers for this prism in our first rectangular prism drawing. We're going to show how we split it up or how we partitioned it into those layers. So we need to draw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers. I wish I drew them a little more straight. Were how we split that shape up. And how many cubes were in each of those layers? Each of those layers had, that's right, 4 cubes in each layer. Well, so we had 5 layers. Each layer had 4 cubes. Well, what was the total number of cubes? Let's see, we had 4. 4 plus 4 is 8. 8 plus 4 is 12. 12 plus 4 is 16. And 16 plus 4 is 20. Faster way to have done that would have been 5 times 4, because we have 5 layers or 5 groups and each one had 4 cubes in each one. Let's look at it if we could do it in a different way. Let's see if we could split it horizontally like a cake. Cakes have layers too. If I split it horizontally, like right here in our picture, what would that look like? Well, first, how many cubes are in this top layer that you see? Well, I have trouble counting because I can't see the sides of these cubes, but if I count from the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I see that I have 10 cubes in the top layer. Well, they look like they match up, so I'm going to put 10 more cubes in the bottom layer. Label your drawing, please. So I have 1, 2 layers of, how many cubes were in each layer? Okay, I can't see it from this angle, but if I turn it here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, that's right, it was 10 cubes. And 2 layers of 10 cubes, I could do 10 plus 10, or I could do 2 times 10, which gives me a volume of 20 cubic units. Again, it's the same prism, I'm just looking at the layers a little differently. Okay, well, we've divided it up or partitioned it like bread slices going vertically. We've made it like a cake going top to bottom horizontally. What is another way that we could split up or partition this right rectangular prism? Well, we could look at it like a front layer and a back layer, just like this. So let's go ahead and draw those layers in our notes. How many cubes are in this front layer? Well, let's see, from this angle I can't see, but I can turn it and I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cubes in that layer. There are 10 cubes in the back layer. Well, 10 plus 10 is the same as 2 times 10, or 2 layers of 10, which gives me a volume of 20 cubic units. Now, if I partition them differently, do these right rectangular prisms have different volumes? Did the volume change at all? No, the volume didn't change. The volume stayed 20 cubic units. I just looked at the layers a little differently. So let's go ahead and answer this question we have here. How can we use layering to find volume? We can use layering to find volume by counting the number of cubes in one layer and multiply it by the number of layers. So here we had 2 layers. I know there are 10 cubes in each layer, so I can multiply the 10 by the number of layers. Don't forget, it's easy for us to partition it in one way, but we challenge ourselves to do different ways so that we can view the shape in a different way. Here we're going from left to right. Here we're going from top to bottom. And here we're going from front to back. All are definitely okay ways to partition or split up this shape, so we can easily figure out its volume by using its layers. If you need additional help on the problem set, please continue watching this video. Otherwise, you can stop it and work on your problem set on your own. Let's read the directions. Use the prisms to find the volume. So this is the prism we're going to use to find the volume. Partition the prism pictured below by visualizing its layers. So here, they've cut its layers up for us. We just have to figure out how many cubes are in each layer. Label each prism to show your work. I'm going to label which method I used and how many cubes were in each layer. Complete the missing information in the table. So here's our table, number of layers, number of cubes in each layer, and the volume of the prism. Well, I'm looking at this prism here, and I'm going to partition that same prism, split up that prism into 2 layers. Here we're using a front and back way of splitting it up. How many cubes are in the front layer? This is a right rectangular prism, so that means each layer is going to have the same number of cubes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 cubes are in that front layer. That means 12 cubes are in that back layer. There are 2 layers. Each layer has 12 cubes. So how many cubic units does that mean make up the volume? Well, I can always add 12 plus 12 and get my answer, or I can multiply these two, getting a volume of 24 cubic units. Let's look at this way of partitioning that same prism. These are all three going to be the same prism, and this one uses a top to bottom way of partitioning it. I need to know how many cubes are in the top layer. So here we go, the top layer, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This one has 12 cubes in the top layer, and since it's a right rectangular prism, it has the same number of cubes in the bottom layer. So we have 2 layers, 12 cubes in each layer. Again, I could do 12 plus 12, or 2 groups of 12, which is the same as 24 cubic units for my volume. Here we have it like those bread slices from left to right. And we're going to look at how many cubes. Now, some of you might be confused. Where do I count the cubes? Well, look at the only layer where you can see the cubes in this layer. If it's broken up like this to match my picture, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 cubes in that picture. These right here I'll color it in. This is all one cube. You're just seeing different sides of that same cube. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 cubes in each layer. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers. Each layer has 4 cubes in it. Well, I could add 4 6 times or multiply 6 groups of 4, which is 24 cubic units. Let's continue on to the next problem. Now we're given a different right rectangular prism, but they've told us how they've partitioned it out. And we're going to figure out the volume of this prism. It should be the same for all three, but we can find it by visualizing layers differently. Here they've cut it for a left to right type of cut, like those bread slices, and we see that cut right here. Well, again, all of this is 1 cube, so we're not going to count that more than once. So I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 cubes in the left layer, which means I have 12 cubes in my right layer because it's a right rectangular prism. So again, 1, 2 layers, each layer has 12 cubes. 12 plus 12, or 2 groups of 12, gives me 24 cubic units. Haha, they have the same volume, they just look a little different. Here we go, partitioning it this way. See these layers here? Partitioning it this way, I see that I have 3 layers. Each layer is going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cubes in each layer. See this layer, this top layer right here? This is all the top layer. And I counted just the cubes that I see on the top. I just counted those faces to make it easier. I have 3 layers of 8 cubes, which gives me again a volume of 24 cubic units. Here they've partitioned it from front to back. So we have this front layer, all of this is the front. I'm going to just count these faces to make it easier on myself, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cubes in each layer. I have 4 layers, so my volume is 24 cubic units. Imagine the right rectangular prism below, ding, 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 is 6 meters long, 4 meters tall, and 2 meters wide. 6 meters long, 4 meters tall, and 2 meters wide. Meters, meters, meters. Remember, labeling is very important. Draw horizontal lines, horizontal meaning this way, to show how the prism could be decomposed, split up, partitioned, all kinds of synonyms going on, into layers that are 1 meter in height. Let's see, tall, I'm supposed to split it up this way. So if they're 1 meter tall, how many layers am I going to have? Okay, so this is 1 meter, 2 meters, 3 meters, 4 meters. So I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 layers. Each horizontal layer will contain how many cubic meters? How many cubes are in this bottom layer? Well, maybe if we think about it, going way back to our lesson, how many cubes were in this layer? We had 4 cubes when we had that first story, and this was a 2 by 2. Well, 2 times 2 is 4. So in this bottom layer, each layer, 6 times 2, 6 by 2, is 12 cubic meters. Well, 12 times 4 layers gives me 48 cubic meters. Hope you had some help, and this makes a little bit more sense to you. See you next time.